Hi and welcome to the Just About Coaching series. In this episode I'm going to be talking about getting organized. Everything in life that we do, we need to be organized in how we handle things and what we do and what needs to happen. And everything in life needs to be in an organized fashion. We try. And the more we can get it organized, the better things work for us and the more we can actually get things done. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Hamish Curry. I run an organization called Just About G, and we do a lot of coaching, mentoring, training, facilitating, and we work with a lot of companies, and I've worked in 17 different countries, and I've worked with over 480 companies, different businesses, and I've had over 100,000 students that have come through my training and that I've worked with. So we're going to go through a lot of issues, and we're going to work through a lot of bits, and we're going to go through the coaching mechanism to be able to get things done and get them organized. I do a series of coaching sessions. I have a one-a-week session that I do from the coaching family. I've got the Just About Coaching family, and if you'd like to join, just go to www.justaboutg and sign up to become a member. We have interesting discussions. It's a 45-minute session each week, and we work through things. I'm one of those people. I love sharing my experience. I love working through with people. I love looking at issues and how we can solve them and how we can improve life and how we can improve the way things are done and what we do and how we can get better results for ourselves out of what we do, and at the same time improve the social side of things, the business side of things, and really enjoy our own personal space and work through things. I'm always fascinated when I'm dealing with companies or dealing with people and I start working through and how much time is wasted looking for stuff, and whether that be where they're looking for the physical stuff, they're looking for a file, they're looking for an object, they're looking for a toy, whatever it is that they're looking for, or something on their computer, a different file, or the way it's done, causes so much unnecessary time wastage. And I run a different course completely where on time management, and one of the issues is getting organized and working through it. So it's one of those areas that's really important to a lot of different aspects of your business that you need to work through. You need to make sure that you get as much area clutter free as possible, and be able to work through it and get your workspace free, your mind free, and get rid of the unnecessary clutter. There's always the other expression on the other side of that coin where you start looking and saying, your people love to see a very well, neat and organized desk, and they say, if your desk's organized and everything's laid out neatly, what have you, it's a sign of an organized mind, whereas a desk that's disheveled and all over the place and what have you is the sign of an organized mind. I always then throw the next one in, is what's the scenario when you start looking at a person who's got a totally empty desk? Does that mean they've got an empty mind? You need to look at the way what suits you better, and to get organized for yourself is very different to getting organized for somebody else. So you need to look and see what the position is and what you're actually doing before deciding how you're going to be organized, because you need to understand whether this is just your personal organization, what you need for yourself, or is it something on a business level where other people might need to access it, or other people need to come in and see your files or be able to go through and find some logic in the way you're doing things to be able to get to what they need as speedily and as efficiently as possible. You really never want to get into the situation where you're the only person who knows where things are. Even in the home environment, you don't want to be in a situation where you're the only one who knows where the fridge and the oven is and the stove, because then you're going to be left with all those tasks. So you want to make sure that everybody knows where everything is, so that everybody can share and get involved and do things as well. So you want to get this right, and you want to be able to make sure that your filing system is such that if you're doing a project, that your files are named according to the project, and anybody looking will immediately be able to go to that file, or be able to share those files to be able to work through them more efficiently. When we're looking at the ways of getting organized and maintaining an organized situation, I work within the parameters of the 7-step approach. And step 1 is organize your office, whether it be your office, your home, wherever the workspace is, wherever you're going to be working. So if it's a kitchen, get that organized. So you don't want to be rushing around trying to find stuff and not knowing where stuff is. If you're going to be preparing a meal, you want to have all your pots and pans that are ready for that, and all the spices that are ready for that meal, and all the ingredients that are required. So you're putting it all out in a logical fashion, exactly the same at the office, where you're wanting to be able to find the files. So you structure your computer, you structure your desk, your filing system, everything gets organized in your desk gets organized so that you can find stuff, and if anybody else needs to, you can direct them very easily to find it. So you must create a space where you have only the essential tools that you're going to need to be able to do your function properly. Use the one system approach. Unfortunately, what's happened now is we've got Google Calendar, we've got the Outlook calendar, we've got a normal calendar, we've got the calendar on the fridge, we've got the calendar behind the desk, and we unfortunately we've got another different one in our diary and on our phones, and unfortunately what happens is that you go and you make an appointment, and then you quickly look to see if you've got an appointment, and you schedule the next appointment, and because you've got it in a different diary or a different system, you overlap, or you put yourself in a rush situation to get from the one meeting to the next. And you really need to make sure that you've got this in a single radar. Everything must be on track, and you must be able to find it so simply. And I always look and say, if you can't sync it within the system, get rid of it. So you can only have one, and it must be able to sync back to that one central point. We just have far too many at the moment, and we just need to make sure that we get rid of them and we function and only work out of the one. So if we're going to operate out of our phone, that's where the diary is, you only use the phone. Or if you're going to use your desktop, make sure that again it's linked and it's synced well to your phone, so that you're able to control things and allow yourself the time that you need to be able to do things properly. So concentrate on just having the one system. When we're looking at the work tasks and the tasks that we need to do, we're going to find that there's stuff that we need to do but later, not quite now, and we need to find or have a system where we have a pending file. So we create the file, whether it be just a desk file or it's on your computer, you mark it off as a pending file, but you note in your diary, in your one file, that your one system, that you have this thing that's pending. So it must be there, but it mustn't be forgotten. So you've got to be able to have a way of being able to check what's still there. So you're noting what's still to be there, and you need to make sure that then that you've got a way of controlling that and being able to get back to them. Again, also a lot of people make the mistake of, yes, this isn't urgent and it's not critical, so therefore I'm going to put it in the pending file. But it's longer to put it in the pending file than it is to actually make a decision and finish the work. So just check on that as well to make sure that you don't run into those scenarios. The other problem that you'll find that you need to do to get organized is you must make decisions. Now, a lot of the time we have so much clutter around and so much things that are still going to be done and not going to be done. You need to look at it, turn around and say, right, okay, now what's going to happen to this? Make a decision. A decision takes 30 seconds. So you make a decision, right, okay, this I'm going to handle now. This is a priority, and I'm going to focus on this one thing, and that's going to be it. Or it's going to be in a pending file, put it in the pending file. Or that's not urgent, I'm going to delegate it to somebody else. Whatever you're going to do with it, make a decision and do that decision and work within those parameters. Number 5 is to set priorities continuously. You got to, throughout the day, you've got to be making, prioritizing what you're doing. And just be very careful of interruptions. So you're going to get interruptions. People are coming to you what needs to get done, or they need you to do something. They tend to hand off stuff that they should be doing to you because you're the willing horse. Just make sure that you're in a position to say no. Learn to say no more often, and make sure that if it's their task, they've got to do it, let them do it. Don't take on tasks that you don't need to. Point 6, plan your day. Rather spend time at the end of the day or the beginning of the day going through your one system, checking what's got to be done, noting when it's got to be done by, and plan your day accordingly so that you know when you're going to be doing. I like to do it both first thing in the morning and last thing at night. So my scorecard, have I checked? Have I done what I said I was going to do? Scorecard it, and then what's got to be left over, diarize for the next day, plan into my one system for the next day. At the end of the day, you clear your desk. Make sure that you've checked off all the tasks, as I said, with your score sheet, scorecard. What have you accomplished? Reschedule tasks that have not been completed. Clear up at the end of the day gives you a sense of closure and helps you make things easier to clean out at the end of the week, the month, the year. So you just need to get into this habit of doing that and working through that process, and you'll find that your life gets so much more organized and so much easier when you follow the simple process of just the 7 steps. We need to constantly be looking at our filing and e-filing systems. We've got to create a file that contains a label urgent, another that can wait, another that's archived. And you need to work according to this and start looking, and then within those, you're going to have them set out according to whether it's to a project or whether it's to a particular person. So urgent, you might have as people within that. So the CEO of the group or the MD or your boss or what have you, he might always be in the urgent folders, so that you're immediately going back to those and checking. The can waits is projects that are going to take a bit of time and they're going to come in. And the archive stuff, generally you've seen, you've read it, you're putting it out the way, you're hardly ever going to use it. And in fact, 95% of that stuff that you stick in an archive, within 6 months you should have actually thrown away, because it's just cluttering and takes up space. And unfortunately, we all have exactly the same problems. We love hoarding stuff, we love keeping it. For whatever reason, we might need it. At some point, we actually might need to look for that information. I'm sure if I went through my stuff, I've still got some of my stuff from school. So, we all have these bad habits, and yes, we are going to use them at some stage. We might actually use them, but in general, 95% of it's trash and you can get rid of it. Start at the end, not at the beginning. So have a look by starting with the older stuff and working towards the most recent stuff on your desk. You take out everything, you identify the stuff, you categorize it as you go. And you start looking and saying, okay, so this has been there for a while. How urgent is it? Has anybody come back to me? Have I got reminders about it? If you haven't had the reminders and nobody's come back to you about it, obviously it wasn't that urgent in the first place. So start looking at those and start working through and clearing the clutter away from you. Get yourself organized. So when you get that, do as much as you can to clear that clutter. Create as much empty space as you can. If you have a filing system where you can be able to find things, don't change it. So I always say, where you can, organize the system into the most logical sequence you can. So if it's on your computer, you're turning around and saying, this is a project, file, put a folder, call that project, whatever the project's name is, and then the information within that, you might turn around and say, this is about distribution, this is about procurement, this is about, and then you have within those folders, you have each of the mails that pertain to that, so that you can then very quickly refer to it, or if you're not in the office, you can get somebody else to quickly go into your system and get it for you, or to work with it, or anything else. And it doesn't become a situation where people are trying to scroll through thousands and thousands of emails or records or what have you to find information, which in fact should just be so easy to find because it's in that logical sequence. So we need to make sure that we've got that and get rid of that clutter, and we've got the system in place. Where possible, avoid using the A to Z filing system, because generally you're not going to remember at all what the name of the person was, or what the name of the project was, or what the name of the supplier was, or what have you, to try and remember it by an A to Z. It's easier if it's based on the actual project and based on what you want to call the project, and that you turning around and everybody's on the same page with the same naming system. And again, I like to turn around and say to people, when you put in your actual subject about sending mails and what have you, you tell the people who are sending you the information that they must put this name in the subject block with then something else added to it, so that then all the time it automatically, you can automate your system to automatically go and put it in that folder, and you can immediately see when stuff is coming through. And of course, because you've now got the urgents and the can waits and the archive situation, that immediately it goes through, you see it highlighted, new mail that's in an urgent, you know to go and look at that quickly. And it then becomes so much easier to control things and be able to work through it. So we want to be able to then look, and I had a secretary once who actually filed everything A to Z, and it took me months to actually get the system back into a logical sequence, because she filed it based on the person's first name, and then halfway through it she decided no, she'd actually file them based on the last name, and then she decided to base some of them on the company and not on the people's names, and you can imagine the mess that that created. So the same subject could be, and in fact was, in 6 different folders, and you ended up with an absolute nightmare trying to find any information out. So you just got to be very cautious and very careful in the way you do a naming policy, and once you've got that in place, then start using those in your subject mail, so that people then get into this habit of being able to automate the system, and it just makes your life so much easier. Don't ask how should I file this, but how will I use it? That's really the better way. Don't be surprised at the amount of trash you are generating to follow up when you follow this process. It actually is amazing when you start looking at it and start seeing how much is actually trash that you don't need. Computer files and paper systems are handled in exactly the same way. It doesn't really matter which way it is. You want to be able to use the folder in the computer or the compartment in your filing cabinet to do exactly the same thing. Whether it's a physical or an e-filing system, it makes no difference. You're going to work through exactly the same thing. Thank you very much for joining us on this session of Just About the Coaching series. And this episode was getting organized. And Ingrid and I thank you very much and hope that you will join us in our Just About GE coaching family. And we're very keen to get involved with people and start working with them and trying to help people and companies to really grow their business and grow their personal lives and help with it. So please go to www.justaboutg.co.za and join our coaching family. I thank you very much, and this series is put through YouTube, and we also do quite a lot of training courses that are done through Udemy and a couple of other training institutions, and also that we do webinars, and you can come on the free webinars and start learning different subjects and different topics, and we go through a lot more detail and we start working with you and start working towards what your training needs are. Again, thank you very, very much for joining us on this mini YouTube program. Thank you.